Hi there, I'm Kevin Jans. I'm the president of Skyway Acquisition and I'm a former contracting officer. This video is about the kickoff meeting. Kickoff meeting it happens right after the contract is awarded and it's a critical piece to make sure that it happens. So here are some of the things you can do during the kickoff meeting to make it very effective. Number one, remember that the competition, the negotiation, the process to get to award is over. Now we're on the same team. We're trying to get the work done. The thing that the contract was awarded to get done is what we're focused on now. So we're in this together now. I get it. Before we were negotiating, we were on different sides of the fence. We were trying to come to terms, whether it's through some competitive process or through a sole source negotiation. All of those scenarios, we weren't on the same side. Now we are. That's why the kickoff meeting is very effective, is we're trying to get the thing that the contract was awarded to get done. We're both trying to get that done. Government and industry, contractor and contracting officer and program manager and everybody on the acquisition side. Second thing is don't get hung up on formality. The amount of time I spent sometimes trying to craft the perfect acquisition strategy kickoff, where I think there used to be a form, like a DoD form for kickoff meetings. Don't get hung up on formality. This could be a phone call. It could be a Zoom call. It doesn't have to be in person. It can be as informal as covering some of these basic elements that I talked about, or it could be as formal as you need it to be, depending on the size of the contract. I get that. But don't get distracted by that. It's more important to have one that's informal than to not have one at all. Just make sure you prepare for it. What I mean by that is make sure that you have enough time, you contractor and government have enough time to review the actual contract. Go through your concerns, see if there's anything that's changed so that you're ready for the actual meeting when it happens, as opposed to, hey, let's have a kickoff meeting tomorrow and just wing it. It can be informal, but it doesn't have to be, it shouldn't be unprepared. So make sure you're prepared. Introduce the new players and make sure that everybody knows what everybody else is doing. One of the things I noticed when I was a contracting officer, it'd be new faces. Well, that's because on the industry side, the program manager who's delivering is going to be different potentially than the program manager who was helping with the proposal. It may have been a person that was listed as a key personnel as a resume, but now you're meeting them, or it could be an entirely new person because now that we're on the performance side, we're now performing the contract versus trying to get it in place. It's different people. And that applies across the board from a payment to the engineering to the acquisition folks, the contracts folks, the lawyers. They could all be different. They might not be, but if they are, make sure that you're having that one-to-one communication and understand who are the roles of these players and who are the folks and what do they do. Let's make sure we all know what each other does. Are there any changes that are needed is the fourth element here, is make sure that you're talking about this now. We talk about the first zone after contract award in the execution time zones is the honeymoon zone. The reason we call it the honeymoon zone is that we're as close to being on the same page as we're going to be. Hopefully we'll stay on the same page throughout the whole contract, but things happen, right? So this is the best time to talk about changes. And the reason this is worth talking about is that let's assume it was a competitive acquisition. It could have been a couple of months. It could have been a year from when the requirement first started all the way through to negotiation and contract award in this kickoff meeting. So a lot of things could have changed. There could have been new funding, additional funding, more funding, less funding. There could have been new people. Here's one. The contractor could have been sold to another company. That happened to me once. During a kickoff meeting, I realized, oh, we have to do a novation agreement because now you're performing under a new name. Now is a good time to get that done, right? We just awarded the contract. A lot can happen in the whole acquisition process. So being aware of what's changed, and now is the best time to talk about it because we're still in the honeymoon zone. And then the last thing is agree on your next steps. Are we going to add things? Are we going to delete things? Are we going to, do we have to negotiate something else? I've had kickoff meetings where we discovered that we needed to add an additional piece of fabric to the particular product we were buying, or another one where we had to we were changing a little bit. We were decreasing the requirement for one of the LCATs for the labor categories. That's a negotiated change, not a hard negotiation, but it still needs to be negotiated. They can't just say poof, do this. There's change to it. I changed the color of a product once, thought it wasn't a big deal. Turns out I didn't change it. The customer asked me to change it, but I changed it as a contracting officer. Turns out that color, the pigment of that paint was more expensive than the color we had started with. That was a really good conversation to have at the kickoff meeting. So because we were open, we're in the honeymoon zone, it was easy for us to solve. So what are your next step? And best case scenario, everything is fine. We're just going to perform. My experience, I think maybe one of the kickoff meetings, things were that smooth because contracting is complicated, business is complicated, companies are complicated, things happen, right? So this is worth having. To learn more about the kickoff meeting, we actually have a podcast episode about it, episode 147. Go to GovCon podcast to get that one. And then if you need help talking through a specific kickoff meeting, if you're preparing for one, either on the government side or the industry side, and you want our help mapping out a strategy that you know is going to work, go to skywayacq.com. We'd love to hear from you. We're a team of 11 former contracting officers. There's our phone number. We're here to help. And I get a question a lot about the pictures behind me. So the picture, this is not a Zoom picture. I took this picture. This particular picture, that is Lake Erie in Lakeside, Ohio. That's actually sunset. So I just like having pictures behind me of things I actually took. So there you go. This one's from Ohio. Thanks. Have a great day.